Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for KREM 2 News First at 4. I'm Whitney Ward, broadcasting at home tonight. Mark Hanrahan is there at the KREM 2 studio. And Mark, we begin tonight as Spokane Regional Health has officially submitted its application to enter into Phase 2 of reopening.
Yeah, good evening, Whitney. That is correct. The Health District announced just last night they submitted a variance application to move on to Phase 2 of Governor Inslee's reopening plan. The application included much needed support from Spokane County Health Officer Bob Lutz and approval from the Spokane County Board of Commissioners. If the application gets approved, the county can move on to Phase 2. The State Department of Health says its goal is to review applications within 1 to 3 days of receiving them. Leaders say Spokane County could reopen by Memorial Day weekend. At least they're hoping that's the case. Once Phase 2 begins, Spokane restaurants could start something new. Today, the Spokane City Council passed an ordinance that would allow restaurants to operate on the sidewalk, parking spots, or even on the road. It's not a new concept entirely. It's being tried out across the country right now. All you have to do is apply for a permit, and the ordinance passed today is designed to make it easier to get those permits.
I think in some cases, it might make the difference between a restaurant being able to stay open and closing permanently.
Some restaurants have been saying that opening just half of their seating areas, which is all they could do in Phase 2, just isn't worth it right now. That's why the city is making it easier for restaurants to get the right permits, but they stress businesses will still have to follow social distancing rules. The city now working with the health department and liquor control board to figure out exactly what these streeteries, as they're called, can look like. A Spokane Valley bar says it will remain open despite warnings from the State Liquor and Cannabis Board. The Liquor Board says the owners received a violation notice with a penalty of 5-day license suspension or a $500 fine. If the bar reopens in defiance of the governor's order, the board could take additional action, including the possibility of an emergency closure. In the meantime, the Black Diamond posted a letter on its Facebook page saying, quote, "We chose to accept this ticket in order to let our amazing customers enjoy their right to go out and socialize with friends and family," unquote. The bar is closed today, but they say they will reopen tomorrow. Blood bank supplies are critically low in the inland Northwest due to the stay-at-home order. According to Vitalant, the need for donations has risen by 25%. More than 250 blood drives were canceled in Idaho and Washington since early March. The blood types for the highest need are type O, A negative, and B negative. If you would like to donate blood, we have more information on our website. Just head to KREM.com. And a quick note to pass along, the coronavirus testing site at the Spokane County Fair and Expo Center will be closed tomorrow through Monday in recognition of the Memorial Day weekend. The testing site will reopen Tuesday, May 26th at 10 a.m. And then from there, the new hours will be Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. until their last day, which right now is set for June 18th. In Bonner County, some people living in the Trestle Creek area dealt with some minor flooding that came up to their homes this morning. Fortunately, no one was hurt and no major damage was reported. But as KREM 2's Taylor Bido explains, recent heavy rains have local authorities there on alert.
Well, fortunately, none of the homes in this area were damaged, but still, as you can see behind me, it did create certainly a headache for some volunteers and people doing some sandbag work here by Trestle Creek. Going off that, all of this weather has local authorities warning people going out this weekend on rivers and lakes to be safe.
The worst thing goes through your mind.
It certainly wasn't catastrophic, but it was enough flooding to catch those living in these homes off guard.
I was pretty shocked and surprised that we had a flooding issue here.
The homes are rentals for low-income families, according to the Bonner County Homeless Task Force, so they're very crucial. Aside from some mud and headaches, no damage was reported and no one was displaced. The homes are near Trestle Creek, just off Highway 200 in Bonner County. Recent heavy rains combined with melting snow and debris caused the creek to swell. But here's the thing. This has never happened here, the Homeless Task Force says.
I was glad to see that there wasn't any more damage than what there is.
Those heavy rains have prompted warnings from authorities across North Idaho, though. The Shoshone County Sheriff's Office urged caution to people who may be out on the Coeur d'Alene River this Memorial Day weekend, saying it was expected to rise. And the National Weather Service said the St. Joe River, along with Lakes Coeur d'Alene and Pend Oreille, would rise through the weekend as well. Back in Bonner County, the Sheriff's Office warned boaters of dangerous large logs and debris on Lake Pend Oreille that can be common this time of year.
It does raise an alarm to you that maybe might be more coming. We just hope there's not the damage that we've seen in the past.
Authorities in Shoshone County summed it up by saying that high water can be unpredictable and unforgiving. In North Idaho, Taylor Vito, KREM 2 News.
All right, let's talk weather here locally now. Finally dried out a bit across the inland Northwest today, but my goodness, meteorologist Thomas Patrick joining us. A lot of rain came down yesterday. Thomas?
Yeah, record-breaking for some areas as well, including in Spokane. 1.4 inches of rain officially at the airport throughout the day yesterday. A new daily record there. And as Taylor's report said, a lot of the rivers and lakes are on the rise because it's not just the rain, it's the snow that's melting on the mountaintops as well. But if you live near some of those rivers, you're probably aware of some of those risks that are going to be. In some of our northeastern Washington locations, still raining quite heavily. In fact, I got a report from Kettle Falls earlier today of just a soaking of a rainfall throughout the early afternoon hours, and it's not moving very fast. So anywhere between Colville and even getting close to Chewelah is starting to see some heavy rain, but we actually had at least a chance to dry out a bit in Spokane. Bit of a windy day today. Some wind gusts upwards of 37 miles per hour. That's the maximum that we've seen. No need for a wind advisory. The winds calm down a bit tonight, but then pick back up yet again for tomorrow. And we're actually still expecting a little bit more rain before we get to the weekend, but at least a couple definitely dry days for the area, both Saturday and Sunday. So how much longer can the dry stretch last once we get there for the holiday weekend? I've got that answer coming up in a few minutes.
All right, Thomas, sounds good. Thank you very much. In the last week, 2.4 million people have filed for unemployment across the country. That brings the 9-week total now to more than 38 million claims. And the Washington Employment Security Department actually thinks the high number of claims here in our state may actually be because of fraud. So if we take a look, Spokane was actually one of the main counties where fraud claims increased by a full 26%. The department says it is now working closely with federal law enforcement to stop fraudulent activity. It's investigating these crimes, they say, to get as much of the stolen money back as possible. We also know that retail is one of the industries that has been hit the absolute hardest by this shutdown and also for unemployment. So they're trying to get creative with curbside and online sales, but it's certainly been difficult. And as you can imagine, many of those stores, they just want to be open again, even though they're not exactly sure what that's actually going to look like. Many are low on merchandise right now because they had to shut down completely because of the pandemic. Owners say they are anxious to be open again, but the new restrictions will be tricky.
I think some of it's gonna be difficult for us, but I think a lot of it we'll be able to adjust to. Normal is we don't know what that means, so I don't want to use that too much. But we want to get back to doing what we do as regularly as we can.
So here is a look at some of the guidelines that we know of so far from the state when it comes to retail. Customer traffic is going to be a huge part of it. No more than 30% of the building's normal maximum capacity. Social distancing markers and measures will also be important. Sanitation has to be constant, especially in places like fitting rooms where items will have to be taken off of the sales floor once someone tries it on, and it'll have to stay off the floor for at least 24 hours. So here's something else that we are learning now. Movie theaters, those are classified as big venues. They're not allowed to be open yet. That means they have to actually stay closed until phase 4 of the state's reopening plan. But there has been some debate when it comes to drive-in theaters and whether they should have to follow the same types of rules. So we checked in with Eastern Washington's only drive-in theater to see how they're handling it.
Years ago, KREM 2 News was at the AutoView Drive-In Theater, showing it off as the only one left in our area.
Live from Colville City Park.
My parents bought it in 1974.
Now, Steve Wisner is a third-generation drive-in theater owner.
I don't know how to do anything else.
And today, his family theater is still here, starting up every spring. Every spring except for this one.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Now, Steve was going to open up his place at the beginning of this month, but the stay-at-home order kept his field closed.
I found out I don't want to retire because it's very boring.
During a normal summer, AutoView Drive-In gets people from all over Eastern Washington, Idaho, and even Canada.
Usually we do very well anyway.
They squeeze in more than 200 people on good nights, even causing traffic jams. People love Washington Drive-In theaters so much that over 75,000 people signed this petition to let them reopen.
Outstanding.
And the state listened. Normal theaters aren't allowed to open until Phase 4, but AutoView can open up on May 29th now. But they do have to make some changes.
We're going to be spray painting on the ground where they can park and where they can't.
Each car will have to be at least 10 feet apart.
About 110 cars is about I think will be our max.
Which will hurt business, but at this point, Steve says something is better than nothing. In Spokane, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
Well, I'm sure lots of people are anxious to get out to the drive-in for sure. That's always a good summer tradition. All right, still to come tonight, a local food bank giving away lots of fresh produce and other nutritious food right here in Spokane. And our Laura Papetti is live to tell us what you need to know and how you can get involved. That's coming up next on KREM 2.